The black ships came from nowhere. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching the stars through the huge front window. His ship was bigger than anything the aliens had ever built. It was dark as night and made no sound as it moved through space. Behind him, 11 other ships just like his followed in perfect formation. Jake was tall and strong, with gray eyes that had seen too much pain. His uniform was simple and black, with no fancy decorations. He did not smile as he looked at the distant planet ahead of them. That planet used to belong to humans. Now aliens lived there instead. "Captain," said Lisa Hayes, his second in command. She was a smart woman with short brown hair and a serious face. "We are now in the Centauri system. All ships report ready." Jake nodded slowly. 3,000 years ago, his people had been forced to leave this place. The aliens had killed almost everyone. Only a few thousand humans had escaped into the dark space between galaxies. Now they were back, and they were not the same weak race that had fled so long ago. "Send a message to the fleet," Jake said. His voice was calm but cold. "Begin the mission." Far below on the planet's surface, Kethvar was digging through old human ruins. He was a Zephyrian, tall and thin, with skin that looked like crystal. His people had taken this world after the humans were gone. They called it Zephyr Prime now, but Kethvar remembered its old name was New Terra. Kethvar was different from most aliens. He liked to study the past and learn about the humans who used to live here. Most of his people said humans were weak and stupid. They said humans had started a war and lost because they were not strong enough to win. But the things Kethvar found in the ruins told a different story. He brushed dirt away from a stone wall covered in human writing. The words were hard to read, but he had learned the human language over many years of study. What he read made his crystal skin turn pale. They came at night, the writing said. No warning, no chance to fight back. They killed the children first, then the women, then the men. They burned our cities and took our world. This is not war. This is murder. Kethvar's hands shook as he read more. There were names carved in the stone, thousands of names. Men, women, children, all dead, all killed by his people and their allies. Above the planet, 3 alien patrol ships moved through space on their normal route. They were Confederation vessels, painted in bright colors to show their power. Inside, the alien crews felt safe and strong. They had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. Nothing could threaten them. Then something impossible happened. Patrol ships' engines stopped working. Their weapons went dead. Their communication systems turned off. The alien crews pushed buttons and shouted orders, but nothing worked. Their ships just floated in space like dead rocks. Captain Vextor of the lead patrol ship was a Valaxian warrior. His people were proud fighters who had never backed down from any battle. He had thick gray skin and 4 arms, each strong enough to crush metal. But now he felt afraid for the first time in his life. "What is happening?" he roared at his crew. "Fix the engines." His crew tried everything they could think of, but the ships would not respond. Then something appeared on their screens that made them all freeze in terror. 12 black ships had surrounded them. The ships were huge and moved without making any sound. They had no lights and no markings. They looked like pieces of the night sky that had come alive. A voice came through the dead communication system. It spoke in perfect galactic standard, the language all aliens used to talk to each other. But there was something about the voice that made Vextor's blood run cold. It sounded human. "Confederation vessels," the voice said. It was calm and quiet, but full of terrible power. "You are now prisoners of the Human Space Command. Do not attempt to fight back. Your weapons will not work against us." Vex-Tor could not believe what he was hearing. "Humans are extinct," he shouted back. We destroyed them all 3,000 years ago. There was a long silence. Then the voice spoke again, and this time it was even more frightening because it was so quiet. We are not extinct, Phylaxian. We are returned, and we remember everything. One of the black ships moved closer to Vextor's vessel. A beam of strange light came from the human ship and touched the alien vessel. Suddenly, Vextor could see through the walls of his own ship. He could see his crew, his weapons, his engines. Everything was visible, as if his ship was made of glass. Your ship is now under our control, the human voice continued. You will remain here until our fleet arrives. Then you will face judgment for the crimes your people committed against humanity. Vextor tried to move his ship, but it would not obey him. He tried to fire his weapons, but they stayed silent. His proud warship had become a prison. On the planet below, Cathvar felt the ground shake under his feet. He looked up at the sky and saw lights moving between the stars. Something big was happening up there, something that would change everything. He looked back at the human writing on the stone wall. At the bottom, carved deeper than all the rest, were words that made him understand the truth at last. We are not dead. We are waiting. And someday, we will return to collect what is owed to. Shoo, the lights in the sky grew brighter. The humans had kept their promise. They had returned, and they were not here to forgive. The great meeting hall on Nexus Prime had never seen such fear. Chancellor Vorth Zek stood at the center of the huge room, his crystal body shaking with worry. Around him sat the leaders of the three most powerful alien races in the galaxy. They had ruled together for 3,000 years, but now they looked like scared children. This is impossible, said General Korath Prime, the biggest and strongest of the Valaxian warriors. His 4 arms were crossed, but his voice was not as confident as usual. Humans cannot have survived. We made sure of that. Then explain the ships, said Queen HFY of the Korthic. Her insect-like head moved from side to side as she spoke. Explain how they disabled our patrol vessels without firing a shot. Explain how they know our language and our history. Vorth Zek looked at the reports on his desk. 3 patrol ships captured. No shots fired. No casualties. But the aliens inside those ships were now prisoners of creatures that were supposed to be dead. Perhaps, he said slowly, we should look at the old records again. The real records. Not the ones we tell our children. The other leaders became very quiet. They all knew what the real records said. They had hidden the truth for 3,000 years, but now the truth was coming back to find them not far away. In the cold space between stars, Admiral Ben Parker was getting ready for war. His ship, the Vengeance, was even bigger than Jake Morrison's vessel. Around him, 50 human warships waited for his orders. Ben was older than Jake, with white hair and scars on his face from battles long ago. His family had been killed in the first alien attacks 3,000 years ago. He had been just a boy then, but he remembered everything. Target the mining colonies first, he told his officers. The Korthic have been stealing resources from our old worlds for 3,000 years. Time to pay them back. His second-in-command, Commander Amy Foster, looked at the star maps. She was young and smart, with red hair and green eyes that missed nothing. Sir, there are civilians at those colonies. Korthic workers and their families. Ben's face was hard as stone. We will not harm innocent people, Commander. That is what makes us different from them. But the military bases will be destroyed. Every weapon, every ship, every soldier who took part in the murder of our people. Amy nodded. She understood. The humans had not returned for conquest. They had returned for justice. The first attack came without warning. Commander, Zek Hive was in charge of the Korthak mining station in the Outer Rim. It was a huge metal structure that pulled valuable minerals from dead planets. Thousands of Korthik. Workers lived there with their families. ZEK Hive was looking at production reports when all the lights went out. Then they came back on, but everything was different. The computers showed messages in human writing. The communication systems were playing human music from 3,000 years ago. What is happening? Zekhive asked his workers. But before anyone could answer, a voice came through the speakers. It was calm and clear, speaking perfect Korthik language. This is Admiral Ben Parker of the Human Space Command. All military personnel will surrender immediately. All civilians will remain in their quarters for their own safety. This facility is now under human control. Zekhive ran to the window and looked out into space. He could not see anything at first. Then the stars began to move. No, not the stars. Ships. Dozens of huge black ships that had been invisible until now. One of the ships was so big it blocked out half the sky. Zekhive had never seen anything like it. It was smooth and dark, with no lights or windows. It looked like a piece of the night that had come alive. Impossible, Zekhive whispered. We destroyed their entire fleet 3,000 years ago. But even as he said it, he knew he was wrong. The humans had not been destroyed. They had been hiding. And now they were back with ships and weapons that made the alien fleet look like toys. The mining station's defense systems tried to fire at the human ships. The big laser cannons that could destroy a small moon turned toward the black vessels and prepared to shoot. Nothing happened. The weapons would not fire. The targeting systems showed error messages in human writing. Even the station's shields would not turn on. Then something even more impossible happened. The human ships began to change. They grew bigger and smaller. They became transparent, and then solid again. They moved through space in ways that broke every law of physics the aliens knew. One of the ships flew straight through the mining station's outer wall without breaking it. It just passed through the metal like it was made of air. Then it appeared inside the station's main hangar and became solid again. Soldiers in black armor came out of the ship. They were tall and strong, moving with perfect coordination. Their faces were hidden behind dark helmets, but Zekhive could tell they were human. The alien guards tried to fight back, but their weapons would not work. Their laser rifles were dead. Their plasma cannons stayed silent. Even their simple metal knives became too heavy to lift. The human soldiers did not hurt anyone. They just walked through the station, and everywhere they went, the alien weapons stopped working. It was like they had power over the very laws of nature. In less than an hour, the entire mining station was under human control. Not a single shot had been fired. Not a single person had been hurt. But everyone knew that the galaxy had changed forever. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood in the science lab of the human flagship. She was a small woman with dark hair and intelligent eyes. Around her, computer screens showed information that would have driven alien scientists mad with confusion. They want to know how we do it, she said to her assistant, Dr. Marcus Lee. They want to know how our ships can move through solid matter and how our weapons can shut down their technology. Marcus was younger than Elena, with brown hair and a kind face, but his eyes were hard when he talked about the aliens. His grandparents had died in the human colonies 3,000 years ago. Let them wonder, he said. Our ancestors spent 3,000 years in the dark space between galaxies. While the aliens were celebrating their victory, we were learning. We were growing. We were becoming something new. Elena nodded and looked at the genetic scans on her computer. The humans who had returned were not the same species that had left. 3,000 years of evolution in the harsh environment of deep space had changed them. They were stronger, smarter, and more advanced than any race in the galaxy. But more than that, they had learned to work together in ways the aliens never could. Every human ship was connected to every other human ship. Every human mind could touch every other human mind. They had become something greater than the sum of their parts. The aliens think this is about revenge, Elena said. They are wrong. This is about justice. And justice cannot be stopped by weapons or walls or lies. Back on Nexus Prime, Chancellor Vorthzek was reading the real history files, the ones that told the truth about what had happened 3,000 years ago. His crystal hands shook as he read about the murder of entire human worlds, about children killed in their beds, about families torn apart and planets burned to ash. We told ourselves it was war, he whispered to his empty office. We told ourselves they were dangerous, but the truth is, we were afraid of them. Afraid of what they might become. He looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the humans were coming for him. Coming for all of them. And there was nowhere to run. The humans had returned. And this time, they were the ones with all the power. 3,000 years ago, Earth was burning. Commander Ryan Mitchell ran through the smoke-filled streets of New York City, carrying his 5-year-old daughter in his arms. Above them, alien ships rained fire from the sky. The great buildings that had stood for centuries were falling like broken toys. "Daddy, I'm scared," little Amy whispered against his chest. "I know, sweetheart," Ryan said, trying to keep his voice calm. "But we have to be brave, just a little longer." Behind them, the sounds of dying filled the air. Humans screaming. Buildings crashing. The alien weapons made a terrible whining sound as they turned everything Ryan had ever loved into ash and dust. Ryan reached the spaceport just as the last evacuation ship was preparing to leave. Captain Sarah Brooks was at the loading door, helping the final group of survivors climb aboard. "How many?" Ryan asked as he handed Amy to one of the other survivors. Sarah's face was grim. 2,000 on this ship. Maybe 3,000 more. On the other vessels. That is all we could save. Ryan looked back at his burning city. 10 billion humans had lived on Earth when the aliens attacked. Now, only a few thousand would escape. It was not war. It was murder. Where will we go? Someone asked. Ryan looked up at the stars. Somewhere they cannot find us. Somewhere we can grow strong. His voice became hard as iron. And someday we will come back. In the present time, Colonel Sarah Brooks stood in the command center of the human ship Justice. She was the same Sarah who had helped save those few. Survivors 3,000 years ago, though she looked much younger now. Human science had learned to stop aging and repair damaged bodies. Around her, screens showed alien leaders being brought aboard human ships. They came not as prisoners of war, but as suspects in a crime. The greatest crime in galactic history. The memory scanners are ready, Dr. Marcus Lee reported. He had set up machines that could read thoughts and memories directly from alien minds. There was no way to lie to these devices. No way to hide the truth. The first prisoner was brought in. General Vextor, the same Galaxian who had been captured in the first encounter. His forearms were bound, but his eyes still showed defiance. "I am a warrior," he growled. "I demand to be treated according to the laws of war." Sarah looked at him with cold eyes. "There are no laws of war here, General. This is a court of justice, and you are charged with genocide." The memory scanner activated. Lights played around Vextor's head, and suddenly the screens around the room filled with images from his mind. Sarah watched as the memories played out like a movie. She saw Vextor as a young soldier, 3,000 years ago. She saw him laughing as his unit destroyed a human school. She saw him giving orders to kill human children who tried to surrender. She saw him burning human hospitals and libraries and churches. "I was following orders," Vextor said weakly. "Whose orders?" Sarah asked. More memories appeared on the screens. Sarah saw the secret meetings between alien leaders. She saw them planning the complete destruction of humanity. She heard them argue about whether to keep some humans as slaves or kill them all. In the end, they had chosen to kill them all. We were afraid, Vextor admitted. Afraid of what humans might become if we let them live. Sarah smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You were right to be afraid. General Tom Williams was setting up what the humans called judgment zones around former human worlds. These were areas of space where human technology created invisible walls that nothing could pass through. Alien fleets that entered these zones found themselves trapped like insects in a web. Tom was a big man with gray hair and kind eyes, but he had seen too much death to be gentle anymore. His job was to make sure that every alien who had taken part in the genocide faced justice. Sir, his aide reported, we have captured the entire Third Valaxian fleet. They were trying to reach their home world to warn their people. How many? Ships? Tom asked. 200 vessels. 50,000 crew members. Tom nodded. Process them all. Every memory scanned. Every crime recorded. No one who participated in the murder of our people will escape judgment. The aide looked uncomfortable. Sir, that will take months, maybe years. We have time, Tom said simply. We waited 3,000 years. We can wait a little longer, too. Make sure justice is done properly. Dr. Marcus Lee was working in his laboratory, preparing the most important broadcast in galactic history. He had spent years collecting evidence of the genocide. Now he was ready to show the galaxy the truth. Marcus was a quiet man who preferred books to weapons, but his work was more dangerous than any bomb. He had proof of everything the aliens had done. Every murder, every burned world, every lie they had told to cover up their crimes. Are you ready? Asked his assistant, a young woman named Katie Wilson. Marcus looked at the massive data files on his computer. 3,000 years of hidden history. Documents the aliens thought were destroyed. Forever. Video recordings of their leaders planning the genocide. Confessions from soldiers who bragged about killing human children. Send it to every communication system in the galaxy, Marcus said. Every planet, every ship, every personal communicator. Make sure everyone sees the truth. Katie's fingers moved across the control panel. Across the galaxy, every screen suddenly showed the same image. A human man with sad eyes, standing in front of a wall covered with pictures of dead children. My name is Dr. Marcus Lee, the image said. I am human. My people were not destroyed in war 3,000 years ago. They were murdered. And today, you will see the proof. What followed was the most damning presentation of evidence in galactic history. Marcus showed videos of alien leaders laughing as they planned the destruction of human worlds. He played recordings of their meetings where they discussed the best ways to kill human families. He showed pictures of mass graves where millions of humans had been buried. On 1,000 worlds, alien children watched in horror as they learned what their grandparents had really done. Many began to cry. Some became sick. All of them, finally, understood why the humans had returned. In the deepest part of the human flagship, Dr. Elena Rodriguez was working on the most incredible project in human history. Around her, machines hummed with power that could reshape matter itself. How many can we bring back? She asked her team. All of them, replied Dr. James Carter, a man whose own family had died in the genocide. Every human who died in the attacks. We have their genetic patterns, their brain scans, their complete life histories. We can recreate them exactly as they were. Elena nodded. The humans had learned to do something the aliens thought was impossible. They could bring the dead back to life, not as ghosts or memories, but as real, living people. Start with the children, she said. They deserve to see their families again. The machines began to work. In tanks of glowing liquid, bodies began to form. Children who had been dead for 3,000 years opened their eyes and took their first breaths in a new world. They would be witnesses at the trial of their killers. On Nexus Prime, Chancellor Vortzek sat alone in his office, reading the reports from his spy network. What he read made his crystal body shake with fear. Humans were not just seeking revenge. They were recreating everyone who had died. Billions of witnesses to testify against their killers. An entire species returning from the dead to demand justice. Vortzek had helped plan the genocide 3,000 years ago. He had voted to kill every human man, woman, and child in the galaxy. He had thought it was necessary to protect alien civilization. Now, he realized he had only delayed the reckoning. A message appeared on his communication screen. It was from Jake Morrison, the human captain who led the Black Fleet. Chancellor Vortzek, the human said, "In 72 hours, a human tribunal will arrive at Nexus Prime. You and your fellow leaders will stand trial for genocide. You may surrender peacefully, or we will come and take you. The choice is yours, but the outcome is not." Vortzek looked at his reflection in the dark screen. He was about to face the judgment of the dead, and there was nowhere left to run. The sky above Nexus Prime turned black with human ships. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Retribution, looking down at the alien capital world. Billions of aliens lived on that planet. They had built their civilization on the bones of his people, and for 3,000 years they had lived in peace and prosperity. That was about to end. "All ships report ready, Captain," Lisa Hayes said. She stood beside him, watching the alien defense fleets scramble to protect their home world. The aliens have assembled over 5,000 warships around the planet. Jake smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "Show them what we learned in the dark." Lisa pressed a button. All across the galaxy, every piece of alien technology stopped working at the exact same moment. On Nexus Prime, the lights went out. The air recyclers stopped running. The communication systems went silent. Every computer, every vehicle, every weapon simply stopped working. In space around the planet, 5,000 alien warships became floating metal coffins. Their engines died. Their weapons became useless. Their life support systems failed. The proud alien fleet was helpless as newborn babies. General Korath Prime was aboard his flagship when the darkness came. He was the greatest warrior in Valaxian history, with strength enough to tear apart metal with his bare hands. But now he sat in the dark, listening to his crew panic around him. "What is happening?" He roared into his dead communicator. But no answer came. Then a voice spoke inside his head, not through any machine, but directly into his thoughts. It was calm and terrifying. "General Korath Prime, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the Human Space Command. Your fleet is now under our control. You have 3 choices. Surrender peacefully and face trial for your crimes. Accept collective punishment for your people, or choose trial by combat. You have 1 hour to decide." Korath Prime tried to fight back, but there was nothing to fight. The humans had not attacked his ships. They had simply turned them off. Down on the planet's surface, panic filled the streets. Aliens ran through the dark cities, trying to understand what had happened to their world. Some cried. Some prayed to their gods. Some simply sat down and waited for whatever was coming. In the government buildings, alien leaders gathered in emergency session. They met by candlelight because even their emergency power systems had failed. How is this possible? Queen HFY demanded. Her insect eyes looked around the dark room in terror. No weapon can shut down technology across an entire galaxy. Chancellor Vortzek had spent the last 3 days reading every file about human capabilities. What he had learned kept him awake at night. "They are not using weapons," he said quietly. They are using something else. Something we do not understand. What do you mean? Korath Prime's voice came through an old radio that somehow still worked. The humans have learned to control the basic forces of nature, Mortzek explained. They can make gravity stronger or weaker. They can change how electricity flows. They can alter the laws of physics themselves. The room became very quiet. These alien leaders had conquered the galaxy because they thought they understood science and technology better than anyone else. Now they realized they were like children playing with toys. Admiral Kate Sullivan was leading the human task force that surrounded the alien capital. Her ship, the Redemption, was even bigger than Jake's vessel. It hung in space like a dark moon. Its weapons pointed at the helpless alien world below. Kate was a stern woman with silver hair and eyes like ice. She had been born during the long exile between galaxies, but she had grown up hearing stories of Earth and the murdered colonies. Those stories had shaped her into a perfect instrument of justice. "Begin the demonstration," she ordered. Below, on Nexus Prime's largest moon, something impossible happened. The entire moon began to change shape. The rocky surface flowed like liquid, reshaping itself into a perfect sphere. Then the sphere began to glow with soft blue light. The aliens on the planet below watched in amazement and terror. The humans had turned a dead moon into a work of art. If they could do that to a moon, what could they do to a planet full of living beings? A message appeared in the sky above every alien city. The words were written in light, floating in the air for everyone to see. "People of the Galactic Confederation, you have lived a lie for 3,000 years. Your leaders told you that humanity was destroyed in an honorable war. The truth is that your ancestors committed genocide. They murdered billions of innocent humans, including children and babies. Today, justice comes to your galaxy. Those who are responsible will face trial. Those who are not will be spared, but you will all live under human protection from now on. The age of alien rule is over." Dr. Rachel Green was working in the Human Command Center, coordinating the global shutdown of alien technology. She was a small woman with red hair and freckles, but her mind was one of the most powerful in the human fleet. Around her, screens showed every alien world in the galaxy. On each world, the same thing was happening. Technology failing. Governments collapsing. Alien leaders realizing that their power was gone forever. "How long can we maintain the shutdown?" asked her assistant, Dr. Paul Martin. Rachel looked at the power readings from the human ships. "As long as we need to. Our ships draw energy directly from space itself. We could keep this up for centuries if necessary." Paul nodded. The humans had learned to tap into the fundamental forces of the universe during their long exile. They had energy sources that would never run out and weapons that could not be stopped. "The Zephyrians are requesting a meeting," he reported. "Their leader wants to discuss surrender terms." Rachel was not surprised. The Zephyrians were the most intelligent of the alien races. They understood the situation better than the others. "Tell them we will meet with Chancellor Vorthsek in 1 hour," she said. "But make it clear that this is not a negotiation. This is the acceptance of justice." Chancellor Vorthsek came aboard the human flagship alone. He had left his guards and advisors behind because he knew they could not protect him anymore. Nothing could protect him from what was coming. Jake Morrison met him in a simple room with no decorations. The human captain looked younger than Vorthsek. Expected, but his eyes held the weight of 3,000 years of pain. "Chancellor," Jake said politely, "thank you for coming." Vorthsek's crystal body was shaking. "What do you want from us?" "Justice," Jake replied simply. "For 3,000 years, your people have told lies about what happened to humanity. You have built your civilization on mass murder and called it progress. That ends today. What will happen to my people? Vortzek asked. Jake was quiet for a long moment. That depends on you. The Zephyrians were not the worst of the genocide participants. Your people can accept judgment and continue to exist under human oversight. But the killing and the lies stop forever. Vortzek nodded slowly. He understood. The humans were offering his people a chance to live, but only if they accepted the truth about their past. And the others? He asked. The Korthik will be reduced to a pre-space civilization, Jake said. They will remain on their home world until they learn to value life. The Vala Xians ... He paused. The Valaxians have chosen trial by combat. Vortzek was not surprised. The Valaxians were too proud to surrender and too violent to accept peaceful judgment. Who will they fight? He asked. Jake's smile was cold as winter. Anyone they choose. But they will fight our champions using only their natural abilities. No weapons, no armor, no technology. Just strength against strength. Vortzek understood what this meant. The humans had evolved during their exile. They were no longer the weak race that had fled 3,000 years ago. The Valaxians would be fighting creatures that were far beyond normal human limits. There is something else, Jake continued. We have brought back the dead. Vortzek's crystal skin turned pale. What do you mean? Every human who died in the genocide has been restored to life. They will testify at your trial. Billions of witnesses to your crimes. Vortzek closed his eyes. He had nightmares about the humans he had helped kill. Now they were alive again, and they would all be looking at him with accusing eyes. When does the trial begin? He asked. Tomorrow, Jake said. On Earth, the world you helped destroy has been restored. That is where justice will be served. Vortzek looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, the human home world that had been burned to ash 3,000 years ago. The humans had brought it back to life, just as they had brought back their people. He was going to face judgment in the very place where his crimes had begun. There was a strange peace in knowing that his long guilt was finally coming to an end. Earth was beautiful again. Jake Morrison stood in the gardens of New Geneva, looking at the blue sky and green trees that had been restored after 3,000 years. The planet that had once been a ball of ash and dust was now more magnificent than it had ever been. Behind him, the great hall of justice rose into the sky like a mountain made of crystal and light. Inside that hall, the trial of the century was about to begin. The leaders of 3 alien races would face judgment for the John. Worst crime in galactic history. The witnesses are ready, Lisa Hayes reported. She stood beside him, wearing the formal blue uniform of the Human Space Command. All 9 billion of them. Jake nodded. The humans had done something the aliens thought was impossible. They had brought back every person who had died in the genocide. Men, women, children, babies. All of them alive again, all of them ready to tell their stories. And the defendants? Jake asked. Chancellor Vortzek has agreed to accept judgment. Queen HFY of the Korthik is demanding a legal defense. General KOR Wrath-Prime ... double quotes. Lisa paused. General Korath Prime still wants trial by combat. Jake was not surprised. The Valaxians were warriors above all else. Even facing certain death, they would choose to fight. Who has he chosen as his champion? Jake asked. Wrathkiller, the greatest warrior in Valaxian history. He has never lost a battle and has killed over 1,000 enemies in single combat. Jake smiled. And our champion? Lieutenant Alex Turner volunteers for the honor. Jake knew Alex well. He was a young man, barely 25 years old, with brown hair and quiet eyes. He looked like he could not hurt a fly, but Alex was one of the new humans, born during the exile. He had abilities that would have seemed like magic to the humans of 3,000 years ago. "Tell Alex he has my blessing," Jake said. "But remind him that this is not about revenge. This is about justice." The trial began at dawn in the Great Hall of Justice. Representatives from every world in the galaxy watched as the truth was finally revealed. The hall was so large that it could hold 1,000,000 people, and every seat was filled. Chancellor Vorth-Zek sat in the defendant's chair, his crystal body reflecting the lights above. He looked old and tired, like a man who had carried a terrible secret for too long. Judge Patricia Adams called the court to order. She was an elderly human woman with white hair and kind eyes, but her voice carried the authority of absolute justice. "Chancellor Vorth-Zek," she said, "you stand accused of genocide, conspiracy to commit murder, and crimes against humanity." "How do you plead?" Vorth-Zek stood slowly. Around him, 9 billion humans watched and waited. These were the people he had helped kill, now alive again to see justice done. "I plead guilty to all charges," he said clearly. "I helped plan the destruction of humanity. I voted to kill every human man, woman, and child in the galaxy. I have carried this guilt for 3,000 years, and I am ready to face the consequences." A murmur went through the crowd. Many had expected him to deny his crimes or try to blame others. "Why?" Judge Adams asked. "Why did you choose genocide?" Vorth-Zek looked around the hall at all the human faces. "Because we were afraid. Humanity was growing too fast, learning too quickly. We believed that if we let you live, you would eventually surpass us and take over the galaxy. So you decided to murder us all instead," Judge Adams said. "Yes," Vorth-Zek whispered, "and I have regretted it every day since." The testimony that followed was the most heartbreaking in galactic history. One by one, the restored humans told their stories. Children described watching their parents die. Parents spoke of losing their babies. Entire families recounted their final moments together, but there was no hatred in their voices. Only sadness and a desire for truth. Dr. Elena Rodriguez testified about the science behind the restoration. "We preserved the genetic and mental patterns of every human who died," she explained. "These are not copies or clones. These are the exact same people who were murdered 3,000 years ago, brought back to life with all their memories intact." When the testimony ended, Judge Adams looked at Vorth-Zek with grave eyes. "The evidence is clear, and your guilt is admitted," she said. "However, the court recognizes that you have shown genuine remorse and have cooperated fully with this proceeding. The sentence is life in prison, with the possibility of rehabilitation after 100 years of service to human communities." Vorth-Zek bowed his head. "I accept this sentence. I only ask that my people be allowed to make amends for what we have done. The Jefferian people will remain free," Judge Adams declared, "but under human supervision. You will help us rebuild what was destroyed and learn to live in peace with all species." Queen HFY of the Korthik was next. Unlike Vorth-Zek, she showed no remorse. "I was following the orders of my hive queen," she said defiantly. "Individual Korthik do not make decisions. We only obey." Dr. Marcus Lee presented evidence of Korthik war crimes. The Korthik were responsible for the destruction of the human agricultural worlds, he testified. They used biological weapons to poison entire planets, making them uninhabitable for generations. The evidence was overwhelming. Videos showed Korthik soldiers laughing as they released deadly viruses into human water supplies. Documents revealed their plans to use human worlds as breeding grounds for their own young. "The Korthik will be returned to their home world," Judge Adams announced. "All their technology will be removed. They will remain there until they evolve beyond their hive mind mentality and learn to value individual life. Queen HFY screamed in protest, but the sentence was final. The trial by combat was held in the ancient Colosseum that the humans had rebuilt in Rome. General Korath Prime stood in the center of the arena, his 4 massive arms flexed and ready for battle. He was 8 feet tall and covered in thick gray skin that could stop bullets. Across from him stood Lieutenant Alex Turner. He looked tiny compared to the alien warrior. Alex wore simple training clothes and had no weapons or armor. "This is not fair," Korath Prime growled. "Where are your champion's weapons? Where is his armor?" Alex smiled calmly. "I do not need them." The battle began. Korath Prime charged across the arena with the speed of a racing car. His 4 arms swung toward Alex with enough force to crush steel. But Alex was no longer their dot. The young human moved like liquid lightning. He flowed around. The alien's attacks never quite where Korath Prime expected him to be. His movements were so smooth, they looked like a dance. Korath Prime tried to grab Alex with all 4 arms at once. Alex simply walked up the alien's body like he was climbing stairs, stepping from arm to shoulder to head before jumping away. "Fight me properly," Korath Prime roared. "I am fighting," Alex replied calmly, "but I will not kill you. That would make me like you." What followed was not really a fight. It was a demonstration of what humanity had become during their exile. Alex moved faster than the eye could follow. He jumped higher than seemed possible. When Korath Prime swung at him, Alex caught the alien's massive fist in his small hand and stopped it completely. The crowd watched in amazement as a young human, using only his natural abilities, completely outmatched the greatest warrior in Valaxian history. Finally, Alex moved so fast that he seemed to disappear. When he reappeared, he was standing behind Korath Prime. The alien warrior was frozen in place, unable to move. "How?" Korath Prime gasped. "I have touched the nerve centers in your spine," Alex explained. "You are paralyzed, but unharmed. You will recover in a few hours." Alex walked to the center of the arena and spoke to the crowd. "This is what we learned in the dark between stars," he said. "Not just how to fight, but how to win without becoming monsters. We could have destroyed every alien world in the galaxy. Instead, we chose justice." The crowd erupted in cheers. Humans and aliens alike applauded the demonstration of mercy and strength. Admiral Lorison stood to address the galaxy. "The age of genocide is over," he announced. "Humanity will now serve as guardians of galactic peace. We will protect all species from those who would harm them. We will ensure that what happened to us never happens to anyone else." The new galactic government was established on Earth. The human hegemony was not a dictatorship, but a protective alliance. Alien worlds kept their independence as long as they followed basic laws against murder and oppression. The Valaxians were given a choice. They could accept exile to a quarantine system where they could fight each other to their hearts' content, or they could learn to live peacefully under human guidance. Most chose exile, but some younger Valaxians decided to stay and learn new ways. Dr. Jennifer Scott stood in her office overlooking the restored city of Washington. She was the new director of galactic relations, responsible for helping alien species adapt to the new order. Her assistant, Dr. Kevin Brown, brought her the daily reports. "The integration is going well," he said. "Most alien worlds are accepting human oversight without resistance." Jennifer nodded. "They understand that we are not conquerors. We are protectors." Through her window, she could see alien children playing with human children in the parks below. Zephyrian crystals sparkled in the sunlight next to human laughter. Even some young Korthic were learning to think for themselves instead of just following orders. "There is one more thing," Kevin said. "The restoration project is complete. Every human who died in the genocide has been brought back to life. Jennifer smiled. Then that you? Ambassador Zektar walked into the great meeting hall of the Galactic Council. His large purple body moved with confidence as his 4 arms swayed at his sides. The Vorthek Empire had ruled over 12 star systems for 200 years. No one had ever said no to them before. The meeting hall was huge and round. Hundreds of different alien species sat in floating chairs around the room. There were blue fish-like creatures from Aqua Prime, tall gray beings with big heads from Centauri, and many others. They all turned to look at Zektar as he walked to the center of the room. "Council members," Zektar said in his deep voice, "the Vorthek Empire wants to explore the territory beyond Sector 7. We need new worlds and new resources for our people." An old blue alien stood up. His name was Elder Finn, and he had been on the council for 50 years. "Ambassador Zektar, you cannot go there. That is human space. No one goes to human space." Zektar laughed. The sound was loud and harsh. "Humans? Those weak little pink creatures? We have read about them. They are small and soft. They have only been in space for 300 years. My people have been flying between stars for over 1,000 years." "You do not understand," Elder Finn said. His voice was worried. "There are warnings in our oldest records. They say they are watchers. They say death follows curiosity. They say the humans see all." Another alien spoke up. This one looked like a tall insect with many eyes. "My grandfather told me stories about the human territory. He said ships go in, but they never come out the same. The few that return speak of invisible watchers and moving stars." Zektar waved his 4 arms in the air. "Stories, old tales told to scare children. I have 100 warships. Each ship has enough firepower to destroy a small moon. What can these humans do against that?" Far away, in a small room on Earth, Dr. Lisa Wong was reading the same old records that Elder Finn had talked about. Lisa was a scientist who studied alien life forms. She had short black hair and wore thick glasses. She had been reading these files for 10 years, and they always made her sad. The files told the story of first contact with the aliens. 300 years ago, humans had been excited to meet other life forms. They had sent peaceful ships with scientists and diplomats. They wanted to make friends and learn about the galaxy, but the aliens had seen humans as weak. The first alien ship that met humans had tried to capture them and make them slaves. The aliens thought humans would be easy to control because they were smaller and had less advanced weapons. They were wrong. The human ships had fought back in ways the aliens did not expect. Humans did not fight fair like other species. They used tricks and traps. They attacked from hiding places. They made the aliens confused and scared. When the fighting was over, the alien ship was destroyed and all the humans had survived. More alien ships came to attack the humans. Each time, the humans won. But the humans did not chase after the aliens or try to conquer their worlds. Instead, the humans did something that surprised everyone. They disappeared. The humans moved all their ships and people to a part of space that was far from the main trade routes. They built hidden bases and secret stations. They made their territory into a maze that only they could understand. Then they sent one message to all the alien species in the galaxy. The message was simple. Stay out of our space, and we will stay out of yours. Most aliens were happy to agree. The few who tried to enter human space either disappeared completely or came back with their minds broken. They spoke of ships that appeared from nowhere and vanished like ghosts. They talked about computer systems that stopped working for no reason. They said the stars themselves seemed to move when humans were. Watching, Lisa closed the file and looked out her window at the city below. She knew that somewhere in space, Captain Jake Murphy was getting ready for another group of aliens who thought they could challenge humanity. Lisa wished things could be different. She wished humans and aliens could be friends. But she also knew that in a galaxy full of predators, humans had learned to be the apex predator. Jake Murphy stood on the bridge of his ship, the Frontier Spirit. Jake was 35 years old with brown hair and green eyes. He had been fighting alien invaders for 10 years. His ship was not big or fancy, but it was fast and smart. Most importantly, it was invisible to alien sensors. "Captain," said his communication officer, Amy Foster. Amy was young with red hair and blue eyes. "We are getting a message from the border stations. A large Vorthic fleet has entered our space." Jake nodded. He had been expecting this. The Vorthic Empire had been growing stronger and more aggressive. It was only a matter of time before they decided to test human defenses. "How many ships?" Jake asked. 112, Amy replied. "They are moving in attack formation toward the inner colonies." Jake smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "Send the message to all stations. Code Red, the Watchers are awakening." All across human space, hidden stations received the message. Computer systems that had been sleeping for months suddenly came to life. Invisible ships began to move toward the Vorthic fleet. The humans had been preparing for this day for 300 years. The Vorthic thought they were hunting prey. They did not know they had just become the hunted. Lieutenant Commander Steve Parker sat in the dark control room of Monitoring Station Alpha 7. The station was built inside a large asteroid at the edge of human space. From the outside, it looked like just another rock floating in space. But inside, it was full of the most advanced sensor equipment in the galaxy. Steve was 28 years old with short blonde hair and brown eyes. He had been working at the monitoring station for 3 years. His job was to watch for any ships that tried to enter human territory. He was very good at his job. The control room had dozens of screens showing different parts of space. Each screen could zoom in on areas that were millions of miles away. The sensors could detect a single small ship from 50 light years away. They could tell what kind of weapons the ship had, how many people were on board, and even what they had eaten for breakfast. "Steve," called out Danny Clark from across the room. Danny was the chief engineer who kept all the sensors working. He was older than Steve, with gray hair and a thick beard. "I am getting readings on Sector 12. Looks like our Vorthic friends have arrived." Steve turned to look at the main screen. Red dots appeared, showing the positions of the alien ships. There were so many dots that they looked like a red cloud moving through space. "Count them," Steve said. Danny typed on his keyboard, and numbers appeared on the screen. 112 ships. Looks like they mean business. Steve pressed a button and spoke into his microphone. "This is Alpha 7 to all stations. We have 112 Vorthic ships entering Sector 12. Begin Phase 1 of the Confusion Protocol. All across human space, other hidden stations received the message. Beta 12 station was built inside a gas giant's moon. Gamma 3 was hidden in a nebula cloud. Delta 5 was disguised as a broken satellite. Each station had a job to do, but the Vorthic fleet moved forward in a straight line. Admiral Zektar stood on the bridge of his command ship, the Star Crusher. He was feeling confident. His ships had the best weapons and the strongest shields. He had defeated many enemies before. "Admiral," said his navigator, a younger Vorthic named Coulter, "our sensors are picking up some strange readings." "What kind of readings?" Zektar asked. "I am not sure, sir. It looks like there are gravitational anomalies ahead, but that should not be possible in empty space." Zektar looked at the sensor display. It showed swirling patterns where there should have been nothing but vacuum. run a full diagnostic on the sensor array. These readings must be wrong. What Zektar did not know was that the humans had placed thousands of small devices throughout their territory. These devices could create false gravitational fields and project fake sensor readings. From monitoring station Beta 12, the humans were making the Vorthik see things that were not really there. Lieutenant Sarah Kim was the sensor officer at Beta 12. She was 26 years old with long black hair and a calm personality. She was watching the Vorthik fleet on her screens and slowly adjusting the false readings. "Make them think there is a nebula cloud to the north," she told her assistant, "and put some fake asteroid fields to the south. Force them to go through the middle corridor." The fake readings appeared on the Vorthik sensors. To them, it looked like they were entering a dangerous area full of space debris and energy clouds. They had no choice but to change course and go where the humans wanted them to go. On the Star Crusher, Navigator Coulter was getting confused. "Admiral, our star charts do not match what we are seeing. According to our maps, this area should be empty space, but our sensors show obstacles everywhere." "Maybe our maps are old," Zektar said. "Space changes over time. Asteroids move. Nebulas expand. Just find us a safe path through." Coulter tried his best, but every path he chose seemed to lead to more obstacles. He did not know that the humans were changing the fake readings every time he made a decision. They were like a mouse in a maze, being guided exactly where the humans wanted them to go. Admiral Kate Ross was watching everything from her command ship, the Liberty's Edge. Kate was 42 years old, with short brown hair and gray eyes. She had been fighting aliens for 15 years and was one of the best military commanders in human space. The Liberty's Edge was invisible to the Vorthik sensors. It used special technology that bent light and radio waves around the ship. To alien eyes, there was nothing there. But Kate could see everything the Vorthik were doing. "They are taking the bait," she told her crew. "The fake sensor readings are working perfectly. They think they are making their own choices, but we are controlling every move they make." Her tactical officer was a young man named Ben Taylor. Ben was 25 years old with red hair and green eyes. He was very smart and understood alien psychology. "Admiral," Ben said, "the Vorthik are getting frustrated. Their communications show they are arguing about which path to take." "Frustration leads to mistakes," Kate nodded. "Good. Frustrated enemies make bad decisions. How long until they reach the convergence point?" Ben checked his computer. "At their current speed, about 6 hours." "Perfect," Kate said. "That gives us time to position all our ships. Make sure every captain knows the plan. We want to surround them completely before they even know we are there." On the Vorthik ships, the crew members were starting to worry. Their navigation systems kept showing different readings every few minutes. Their communication equipment was picking up strange interference. Some of the younger crew members said they felt like they were being watched. Engineer Takhtar was working in the engine room of one of the smaller Vorthik ships. He was trying to fix a problem with the ship's sensors when he noticed something odd. The sensor array was working perfectly, but the readings it was getting did not make sense. "These gravitational readings," he muttered to himself. "They change too fast. Real gravity fields do not move like this." But when he reported his concerns to his captain, he was told to stop worrying and keep working. The Vorthik were proud. Warriors who did not like to admit when something was beyond their understanding. From his station at Alpha 7, Steve Parker was coordinating the entire operation. He had contact with dozens of monitoring stations, hundreds of invisible ships, and thousands of sensor devices. It was like conducting a huge orchestra where every instrument had to play at exactly the right time. "Danny," he called to the engineer, "how are our fake readings holding up?" Danny checked his instruments. perfect so far. The Vorthic still think they are navigating through natural obstacles. They have no idea we are guiding them. Steve smiled. This was what humans did best. Other species relied on brute force and big weapons. Humans used intelligence and patience. They turned the enemy's own strengths against them. Phase 1 is complete, Steve announced to all stations. The Vorthic fleet is exactly where we want them. Begin Phase 2. Start the technical interference protocol. All across the Vorthic fleet, small problems began to appear. Navigation computers started showing minor errors. Communication systems developed slight static. Weapon targeting systems became less accurate. Each problem was tiny by itself, but together they created a feeling of unease and confusion. The Vorthic did not know it yet, but they were no longer in control of their own destiny. The humans had taken over without firing a single shot. Admiral Zektar was getting angry. His fleet had been traveling through human space for 12 hours, and nothing was going right. Ships that should have been easy to find were missing from his sensors. Star positions did not match his navigation charts. His communication officers reported strange voices in the static that seemed to whisper in languages they could not understand. "Navigator," Zektar shouted at Coulter. "Where are we?" Coulter looked at his instruments with worry in his eyes. I am not sure, Admiral. Our position shows we should be in the Kepler system, but the stars are in the wrong places. And our chronometer says we have been traveling for 6 hours, but the fuel consumption shows 12 hours of flight time. That is impossible, Zektar growled. Check all the instruments again. What the Vorthic did not know was that the humans had been playing with their perception of time and space. Special devices hidden throughout the area could affect how alien brains processed information. The Vorthic thought they were seeing real stars, but they were actually looking at holographic projections that the humans could move around like pieces on a chessboard. On the human ship Liberty's Edge, Tactical Officer Amy Foster was watching the alien fleet with interest. Amy was 30 years old with brown hair and smart blue eyes. She had studied alien psychology for 8 years and understood how different species reacted to stress and confusion. "Admiral Ross," Amy said to her commander, "the Vorthic are showing classic signs of spatial disorientation. Their formation is becoming loose and disorganized. Some of their ships are starting to fall behind." Admiral Kate Ross nodded. "How are their stress levels? Rising quickly?" Amy replied. "Their communications are becoming more frantic. The younger crew members are starting to panic, but the older officers are trying to maintain discipline." Kate looked at the tactical display. The Vorthic fleet was spread out over a much larger area than when they had first entered human space. Some ships were miles off course, following false sensor readings that led them in circles. "Perfect," Kate said. "Confused enemies make mistakes. And when they make mistakes, we can exploit them." Dr. Kevin Martinez was working at a special research station called Omega Base. Kevin was a scientist who studied how alien minds worked. He was 35 years old, with black hair, and wore thick glasses. His job was to understand why different alien species acted the way they did. Kevin was watching video feeds from inside the Vorthic ships. The humans had secretly placed tiny cameras on the alien vessels years ago, when the Vorthic had stopped at neutral trading stations. The cameras were so small that even the best alien security systems could not detect them. "Interesting," Kevin said to his assistant, a young woman named Maria Sanctus. "Look at how the Vorthic are reacting to the confusion. The younger ones want to retreat, but the older ones are getting more aggressive." Maria looked at the screens. She could see Vorthic crew members arguing with each other. Some wanted to turn back, while others wanted to push forward and fight whatever was causing their problems. "It makes sense," Maria said. "The Vorthic are a warrior culture. When they face a problem they cannot understand, their first instinct is to attack it. Exactly, Kevin agreed. And that is exactly what the humans are counting on. The more confused and angry the Vorthik become, the more likely they are to make a fatal mistake. On monitoring station Beta 12, communications specialist, Rachel Davis was listening to the Vorthik radio transmissions. Rachel was 27 years old with red hair and green eyes. She could speak 12 different alien languages and understood the psychology behind their communication patterns. This is interesting, Rachel said to her team. The Vorthik are starting to report ghost ships on their sensors. Ships that appear for a few seconds and then vanish. Her supervisor, Lieutenant Commander Tom Wilson, looked at the data. Are we showing them fake ships now? No, Rachel replied. These are real. Human ships. Our stealth technology is so good that the Vorthik sensors can only detect us for brief moments when we want them to. It is making them think they are seeing things that are not there. Tom smiled. So they know something is out there, but they cannot get a clear look at it. That must be very frustrating for a warrior species. Very frustrating, Rachel agreed. Listen to this transmission I just intercepted. She played a recording of two Vorthik officers talking to each other. Their voices sounded worried and confused. Captain Mortak to Captain Veltar. Did you see those ships on your sensors? I saw something, but it vanished before I could get a clear reading. What kind of technology can do that? I do not know. But I'm starting to think the old warnings about human space were not just stories. Tom and Rachel exchanged looks. The psychological warfare was working perfectly. Back on the Star Crusher, Admiral Zektar was losing his patience. His fleet was spread out across a huge area of space, and he was getting reports of technical problems from every ship. Navigation. Systems were giving false readings. Communication equipment was filled with static. Even the food processors were malfunctioning. This is not natural, he said to his second-in-command, a veteran warrior named Gartek. Someone is doing this to us. But who? Gartek asked. We have not seen any enemy ships. Our sensors show nothing but empty space. Then our enemies are using stealth technology, Zektar decided. They are hiding from us, picking off our systems. One by one. This is not honorable warfare. What Zektar did not understand was that humans had a different idea of honor than the Vorthik. To the Vorthik, honor meant facing your enemy in direct combat. To humans, honor meant protecting your people and your territory by any means necessary. If that meant using stealth and deception, then that was what they would do. Captain Jake Murphy was piloting his ship, the Frontier Spirit, through the maze of confused Vorthik vessels. His ship was completely invisible to their sensors, but he could see everything they were doing. Jake was watching Admiral Zektar's ship and waiting for the right moment to reveal himself. Captain, said his science officer, Dr. Lisa Wong, the Vorthik stress levels are reaching critical points. Some of their crew members are starting to have nervous breakdowns. Jake nodded. I almost feel sorry for them. They came here expecting an easy fight, and instead they found a nightmare they cannot understand. Should we contact them? Lisa asked. Offer them a chance to surrender before things get worse? Jake thought about it. Not yet. They need to understand that they are completely outmatched. If we contact them too early, they might think they still have a chance to win. On the Vorthik ship Thunderstrike, engineer Loktar was trying to fix the ship's navigation system for the 5th time that day. Every time he thought he had solved the problem, new errors would appear. It was like the ship's computer was fighting against him. This is impossible, he muttered. These systems were working perfectly when we left home. Now they are acting like they have been infected with some kind of virus. Loktar was closer to the truth than he knew. The humans had developed viruses that could affect alien technology without being detected. These viruses did not destroy the systems, but they made them unreliable and confusing. Engineer Loktar to bridge. He called on his communication device. "I need to report something strange." "What is it?" came the reply from the bridge. "I think our computer systems have been compromised. The errors are too organized to be random. Malfunctions. Someone is controlling them from the outside." There was silence from the bridge for a moment. Then the captain's voice came through, sounding worried. "Are you saying we are under attack?" "I am saying we are under some kind of attack," Loktar replied, "but not the kind we are trained to fight." All across the Vorthic fleet, similar conversations were taking place. The alien warriors were slowly realizing that they were not fighting a traditional enemy. They were fighting an enemy that could attack their minds, their technology, and their confidence without ever showing itself. From his command center, Steve Parker was coordinating the final phase of the Maze Protocol. Every human station was working together to guide the Vorthic fleet toward a specific location in space. It was like herding dangerous animals into a cage, except the cage was invisible, and the animals did not know they were being herded. "All stations report ready," Steve announced. "The Vorthic fleet will reach the convergence point in 2 hours. All human ships are in position and ready to reveal themselves." The trap was almost complete. The Vorthic had been guided exactly where the humans wanted them. Soon, they would learn the final lesson about why no species enters human territory and survives the experience unchanged. The Vorthic fleet finally arrived at what looked like an empty system. Admiral Zektar stared at his main screen, trying to understand what he was seeing. There were no planets, no asteroids, no gas clouds. Just empty black space with distant stars. "This cannot be right," he said to Navigator Coulter. "Our sensors led us here, but there is nothing here." "Maybe this is where the humans want us," suggested his second-in-command, Gortek. "Maybe this is their trap." Sektar laughed, but it sounded forced and nervous. "What trap?" "There is nothing here. If the humans want to fight us, let them come out and face us like warriors." At that exact moment, something impossible happened. The empty space around the Vorthic fleet suddenly filled with ships. Hundreds of human vessels appeared from nowhere, as if they had been invisible and had just chosen to become visible. The Vorthic crew members gasped in shock. One moment they had been alone in empty space, and the next moment they were completely surrounded. Human ships were above them, below them, and on all sides. The aliens had been trapped without even knowing it. "How is this possible?" Coulter whispered, staring at his sensor readings. "Where did they come from?" The human ships were unlike anything the Vorthic had ever seen. They were sleek and smooth, with no visible weapons or engines. They seemed to flow through space like living creatures rather than machines. And they had been hiding there the entire time, watching and waiting. Captain Ben Taylor stood on the bridge of his ship, the Constitution. Ben was 32 years old, with dark hair and calm brown eyes. He had been waiting in this position for 8 hours, his ship completely invisible to alien sensors. "Open a communication channel," Ben told his communications officer. The main screen on the Vorthic command ship flickered, and suddenly, Admiral Zektar was looking at a human face. Ben Taylor looked calm and confident, not at all like someone who was afraid of the large alien fleet. "Admiral Zektar of the Vorthic Empire," Ben said in perfect Vorthic language. "You have entered human territory without permission. You have ignored all warnings to stay away. You now have 3 choices." Zektar was so surprised that a human could speak his language that it took him a moment to respond. "What ... What are my choices? First, you can turn around and leave our space immediately. We will allow you to go in peace and forget this ever happened. And the second choice?" Zektar asked. "You can surrender your weapons and request diplomatic talks." We will escort you to a neutral location where we can discuss your reasons for coming here. Zektar's forearms trembled with anger. The idea of surrendering to humans was almost impossible for him to accept. And the third choice? Ben's expression did not change, but his voice became colder. You can choose to fight. But I warn you, Admiral, that would be a very bad decision. On the human ship Liberty's Edge, Admiral Kate Ross was watching the conversation while preparing her fleet for battle. She hoped the Vorthic would choose one of the peaceful options, but she knew their proud warrior culture would probably force them to fight. Chief Science Officer Maria Santos was monitoring the alien fleet's energy signatures. Maria was 29 years old, with long brown hair and intelligent dark eyes. She had studied alien technology for 6 years and could predict what the Vorthic would do next. Admiral, Maria said quietly, their weapon systems are powering up. They are going to choose to fight. Kate sighed. I was afraid of that. Signal all ships to prepare for defensive maneuvers. Remember, we want to disable them, not destroy them completely. On the Star Crusher, Admiral Zektar was trying to count the human ships surrounding his fleet. But every time he thought he had counted them all, more ships seemed to appear from nowhere. His sensors were showing impossible readings. How many ships do they have? He asked his tactical officer. I cannot tell, Admiral. My sensors show different numbers every time I scan. Sometimes it looks like 300 ships. Sometimes it looks like 1,000. What the Vorthic did not know was that the humans were using holographic projectors to make their fleet look much larger than it really was. Some of the ships the aliens were seeing were real, but many others were just illusions created by advanced technology. Zektar made his decision. His pride would not allow him to surrender to a species he considered inferior. All ships prepare for battle. Show these humans what Vorthic warriors can do. The moment the first Vorthic ship fired its weapons, everything changed. The human ships did not fight like any enemy the Vorthic had ever faced before. Instead of forming battle lines or fighting in organized groups, they scattered in all directions. Some human ships vanished completely, becoming invisible again. Others moved so fast they seemed to teleport from one position to another. The Vorthic found themselves shooting at empty space, while human ships appeared behind them, fired once, and disappeared again. Captain Danny Clark was piloting his ship, the Freedom, through the confused Vorthic formation. Danny was 28 years old, with blonde hair and blue eyes. He had been trained in the human style of space combat, which was completely different from how other species fought. Hit and run, he said to his crew. Attack fast, then vanish before they can shoot back. Make them waste their ammunition shooting at ghosts. His ship fired a precise beam that disabled the engines of a Vorthic cruiser, then immediately cloaked itself and moved to a new position. The Vorthic ship was left floating helplessly while its crew tried to figure out where the attack had come from. All around the battlefield, the same thing was happening. Human ships would appear just long enough to fire a single precise shot, then vanish again. They targeted engines, weapon systems, and communication arrays. They did not try to destroy the Vorthic ships completely, just disable them. On the Star Crusher, Zektar was watching his fleet fall apart. His ships were firing their weapons in all directions, but they were not hitting anything. Meanwhile, human attacks came from everywhere and nowhere. This is not how space battles are supposed to work. He shouted in frustration. They are not fighting with honor. Admiral, called his communications officer, we are losing contact with our ships. The humans are jamming our communications. Then signal with lights, Zektar ordered. Use the old methods, but even the light signals were being blocked. The humans had surrounded the Vorthic fleet with a cloud of tiny particles that absorbed and scattered light waves. The alien ships could not even see each other clearly. let alone coordinate their attacks. Engineer Amy Foster was working at a jamming station hidden inside a fake asteroid. Amy was 26 years old with red hair and green eyes. Her job was to disrupt all Vorthic communications and make it impossible for them to work together. "This is almost too easy," she said to her partner, Lieutenant John Miller. "Their communication systems are so old-fashioned compared to ours. It is like trying to jam a radio with a quantum computer." "Do not get overconfident," John warned. "The Vorthic may be primitive, but they are still dangerous when they are desperate." John was right. As the Vorthic realized they were losing badly, some of their ships began to act recklessly. They started ramming attacks against the human vessels, hoping to cause damage even if it meant destroying themselves. But the human ships were ready for this too. They used their superior speed and maneuverability to avoid the ramming attacks, leading the desperate Vorthic ships into collisions with each other instead. Within 30 minutes of the battle starting, half of the Vorthic fleet was disabled. Their ships floated in space with dead engines and broken weapons. The other half was still fighting, but they were scattered and confused. Admiral Ziktar finally understood the truth. His mighty fleet had been defeated not by superior weapons or larger numbers, but by superior tactics and technology. The humans had turned space combat into an art form that the Vorthic could not match. "Cease fire," he ordered over the few communication channels that still worked. "All ships, cease fire." Captain Ben Taylor's face appeared on the main screen. "Again, have you made your decision, Admiral?" Zektar looked around his damaged bridge. Half of his crew was injured, and his ship systems were failing one by one. His pride as a warrior was broken, but his responsibility to his people was more important. Double quotes, "We ... We surrender," he said quietly. "We request medical assistance for our wounded." Ben nodded. "Medical ships are already on their way." "You fought bravely, Admiral, but you were fighting an enemy you did not understand." As human medical ships moved toward the damaged Vorthic vessels, Zektar realized something that shocked him. The humans could have destroyed his entire fleet in the first few minutes of battle, but they had chosen to disable his ships instead of destroying them. They had shown mercy to an enemy who had invaded their territory. For the first time, Admiral Zektar began to understand why no species entered human territory. It was not because humans were monsters. It was because they were something much more dangerous than monsters. They were patient, intelligent, and capable of winning any fight without even trying hard. The Vorthic had learned their lesson, but the cost had been their pride and half their fleet. 3 days after the battle, Admiral Zektar sat in a medical room on the human hospital ship Mercy. His left arm was in a healing device, and his pride was wounded more than his body. Around him, Vorthic crew members from different ships were also receiving medical treatment from human doctors. What surprised Zektar most was how gentle the human medical staff were. Dr. Lisa Wong, a small human woman with kind eyes, had spent hours treating his injuries. She spoke to him in his own language and explained everything she was doing. "Why are you helping us?" Zektar asked her. "We came here to conquer your territory. We attacked your ships. By the laws of war, you could leave us to die." Lisa looked up from the medical scanner she was using to check his arm. "Because that is not who humans are," she said simply. "We fight to defend ourselves, not to cause unnecessary suffering." "I do not understand your species," Zektar admitted. "You have technology that is far beyond ours. You could have destroyed my entire fleet in minutes. Instead, you disabled our ships and then saved our lives. This makes no sense for a warrior culture." Lisa smiled sadly. "We are not a warrior culture, Admiral. We are a survivor culture. There is a big difference." Before Zektar could ask what she meant, the medical bay door opened. A human woman entered wearing the uniform of a high-ranking officer. Zektar recognized her from the battle communications as Admiral Kate Ross. "Admiral Zektar," Kate said with a respectful nod. "I hope you are feeling better. We need to talk." Kate was joined by Captain Ben Taylor and Dr. Kevin Martinez, the human psychologist who had been studying alien behavior. They sat down around Zektar's medical bed, and Kate activated a small device that created a privacy field around them. "Before we begin," Kate said, "I want you to know that you and your people are free to leave at any time. We are not holding you as prisoners." Zektar was surprised again. "You are letting us go after we invaded your space?" "Yes," Kate replied. "But first, we want to make sure you understand what happened here and why it happened." Dr. Kevin Martinez leaned forward. He was a thin human with glasses who spoke very softly. "Admiral, what do you know about human history?" "Very little," Zektar admitted. "The galactic records say you are a young species that only discovered space travel 300 years ago." "That is correct," Kevin said. "But what the records do not tell you is what kind of world we came from. Earth was not a peaceful planet, Admiral. For thousands of years, humans fought each other in terrible wars. We learned to be very good at warfare, because if we were not good at it, we died." Captain Ben Taylor continued the explanation. "When we first met other alien species, we tried to be peaceful. We sent diplomats and scientists. We wanted to make friends and learn from other cultures. What happened?" Zektar asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. "The aliens saw us as weak," Ben said. "They thought humans would be easy to conquer and enslave. Several species attacked our peaceful ships and tried to capture our people." Kate took over the story. "We learned very quickly that the galaxy was full of predators. Species like yours that believed strength came from conquest and domination. So we made a decision." "What decision?" "We decided to become the apex predator," Kate said simply. "We used all the knowledge we had gained from fighting each other on Earth, and we applied it to space warfare. But we also decided we would only use that knowledge to defend ourselves." Dr. Lisa Wong had been listening from across the room. She came over and joined the conversation. "Admiral, humans learned something important from our history on Earth. Aggressive empires always collapse eventually. They make too many enemies and spread themselves too thin. We decided we did not want to become another failed empire. So instead," Kevin continued, "we became something else. We became the Watchers. We built our territory into a fortress that no one can attack successfully. We developed technology that makes us invisible to our enemies. We learned to fight in ways that other species cannot understand or counter." Zektar was beginning to understand. "You made yourselves too dangerous to attack, but not threatening enough to unite the galaxy against you." "Exactly," Kate said with approval. "Every species that has tried to enter our territory has learned the same lesson you just learned. We are not monsters who will hunt you down and destroy your worlds. But we are also not victims who will allow ourselves to be conquered." Ben activated a holographic display that showed a map of the galaxy. Human territory was marked in blue, and it was much smaller than the Vorthic Empire or many other alien nations. "Look at this map, Admiral," Ben said. "Human space is only 12 star systems. We could have expanded to control hundreds of systems by now, but we chose not to. We have everything we need in our small territory, and we do not want to rule over other species. But if you stay small, other species will think you are weak," Zektar protested. "That is how the galaxy works." "No," Kate said firmly. "That is how the old galaxy worked. We are creating a new way. We have proven that a small, well-defended territory is stronger than a large, aggressive empire. Your fleet of over 100 ships was defeated by our small defensive force. Dr. Kevin Martinez showed Zektar some data on a tablet computer. Admiral, we have been studying the Vorthek Empire for many years. Your expansion is already causing problems. You have too many enemies and not enough resources to fight them all. Your empire will collapse within 50 years if you continue on your current path. Zektar looked at the data and felt a cold feeling in his stomach. The human analysis was correct. The Vorthek Empire was growing too fast and making too many enemies. They had been so focused on conquest that they had not noticed their own weakness. What do you suggest we do? He asked quietly. Learn from us, Kate replied. Stop trying to. Conquer other species. Focus on making your existing territory strong and prosperous. Become a defensive power instead of an aggressive one. But that goes against everything the Vorthek believe in, Zektar protested. We are warriors. Conquest is our way of life. Dr. Lisa Wong sat down next to him. Admiral, humans were warriors too. Some of the most violent and aggressive creatures in the galaxy. But we learned that true strength comes from protecting what you love, not from taking what others have. We still fight, Ben added, but we only fight to defend ourselves in our way of life. That kind of fighting has a purpose and meaning that conquest never has. Captain Jake Murphy entered the medical bay at that moment. He had been overseeing the repair of the damaged Vorthek ships. Jake was tired, but satisfied with how the operation had gone. Admiral Zektar, Jake said with a nod. Your ships are repaired and ready for travel. We have also loaded them with enough supplies to get you safely back to Vorthek territory. You repaired our ships? Zektar asked in amazement. Why would you do that? Because we want you to go home and tell your people what you learned here. Jake replied. We want them to understand that humans are not their enemies, but we are also not easy targets. Admiral Kate Ross stood up and activated a communication device. I have arranged for you to speak with someone very important before you leave. The holographic display flickered, and suddenly Zektar was looking at an elderly human woman sitting in what appeared to be a government office on Earth. The woman had gray hair and kind, but intelligent eyes. Admiral Zektar, the woman said. I am President Ellen Hayes, the elected leader of the human government. I wanted to speak with you personally before you return to your people. Zektar was honored that the human leader would take time to speak with him. President Hayes, I apologize for invading your territory. I now understand that we were wrong. President Hayes smiled gently. Admiral, humans make mistakes too. The important thing is that we learn from them. I want to offer you a formal treaty between our peoples. A non-aggression pact that guarantees peace between humans and Vorthek. What would this treaty require? Zektar asked. Very simple terms, President Hayes replied. The Vorthek Empire agrees never to enter human territory without permission. In return, humans agree never to attack Vorthek territory. We also offer to share some of our defensive technology to help you protect your own worlds. Zektar was shocked. You would give us military technology after we attacked you? Defensive technology only, President Hayes clarified. Technology that can protect you from other aggressive species, but cannot be used to attack others. We believe that a galaxy full of strong defensive powers is better than a galaxy full of weak aggressive ones. Admiral Zektar thought about everything he had learned in the past few days. The humans had shown him a completely different way of thinking about power and strength. They had defeated his fleet, but then healed his wounded. They had captured his ships, but then repaired them. They offered friendship to an enemy who had tried to conquer them. I accept your treaty, he said finally, and I promise to tell my people what I have learned here. The galaxy needs to know the truth about humans. What truth is that? President Hayes asked. Zektar looked around the room at all the humans who had treated him with respect and kindness despite his aggression. That humans are not the monsters we feared. You are something much more dangerous than monsters. You are teachers. You show other species a better way to live. President Hayes nodded approvingly. That is the greatest compliment anyone.